Okay, we just got back from our 30-day trip on Saturday. We pulled all our inventory out of storage on Sunday, and it's Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. and I'm packing as much as I can before my postal carrier comes. This is one of the first things that sold about 30 days ago, and the person messaged me and said, "Where's my thing?" So I'm packaging this first. This is a little sweetgrass basket, handmade, probably in our death bins, but it's quite cute, and it sold for 19 bucks. Okay, I forgot to mention just now that I have 108 items to ship, so it's going to take me a couple days. I'm going to do as much as I can, as fast as possible. These are a pair of Lehigh men's metatarsal boots, where this is all steel-toed right there. So they're safety boots for working on certain professions. This person told us that her husband works on the railroad, so that's perfect. I've had them for years, and they sold for 50 bucks. Little Sony Walkman radio. It's great for jogging. It's got a clip on it, and it sold for 25 bucks. These are a pair of cut glass and marcasite. Is that what it's called? Marcasite. Monet clip-on earrings. The brand is Monet. They're really pretty, and they sold for $36.99. This is a vintage 1983 The John Anderson Band tour t-shirt that I found at my local thrift store for pennies. Kind of awesome. Swingin' Tour 83. And this shirt sold for $125 to someone in Nashville. These are a pair of Martin Osso brand leather Mary Janes, leather bottoms. See if I can see the logo. You can't see the logo. It's really hard to see. Martin Osso. And these sold for 50 bucks. And I have another identical pair in black. These are dark brown. These are a pair of new with tags, like Dickie style, kind of worker skater pants. The brand is Protexol, and it's union made. Sorry, it's hard to see. Definitely unworn. Sold for 30 bucks. This is an embosser. Right now it has the seal of someone who was a notary public, but you can get the seal replaced. So that's kind of cool. Solid chrome, sold for 40 bucks. Nice solid wood cigar box, totally vintage. Someone said they were 10 cents each, so you know it's old. And it sold for 25 bucks. This is a vintage realistic brand tape demagnetizer wand. So you turn it on and you rub it over cassette tapes or videotapes, and it erases them. And it sold for $36.99. So this is a vintage piece of artwork. It's handmade. Somebody drew these little kids on there with a... One kid has a doorknob that he's going to slam, and the other kid's going to get his tooth pulled. This was in the new house that we just bought, hanging up in the bathroom. Totally random. It was super dirty. But we sold it for a best offer of $65. This is a cute Express brand terry cloth. Let's see if we can see the label. Express. Yellow sweatshirt. Sold for 20 bucks. This is a high-end brand bathing suit called Heidi Klein. I think you can only buy them online, but they're quite expensive. They've got these cool like chains. It's a size 2, which is very small. And the funny thing about this bathing suit is we picked up a bag that had just been put out on the street in New York City, like a piece of luggage that we are going to use. And there were a bunch of clothes in it. Just someone had put it out to throw it away, and this was in there. And it actually looked like it had never been worn. I did wash it. You are allowed to sell used bathing suits on eBay. So I gave it a good washing, and it sold for $150. Pretty crazy. This is 3 yards of worsted wool. It's sort of a heather pinstripe fabric. It's quite a lot of fabric, actually. It's medium weight, so it's kind of heavy. Let's see, 2.5 pounds. And it sold for a best offer of $55. These are a pair of Dr. Scholl's women's kind of Mary Jane sandals, sneakers. They look like they've never been worn. And they sold for $36.99. This is a mug of the Black Dog in Martha's Vineyard. I do believe it's a restaurant. I'm from Massachusetts, but I've never been to Martha's Vineyard. Although growing up, I lived in a pretty, or part of our town was affluent. So there were super preppy people who would go to Martha's Vineyard every summer. So they all had Black Dog t-shirts. That's how I know it's a thing. And this mug sold for $25. Vintage Etienne Agnier burgundy leather jacket, women's. You can see the logo there and there. I have 3 of these. I've had up to like 6 before at the same time. I find them all the time. This sold for $47. This is a vintage Ronson brand lighter. It's huge. Look how big it is. Massive. Looks like it's barely been worn. It comes with a little pouch and a box. And it sold on sale for $44. Vintage 70s, new in the package, Teflon ironing board cover. Got a great graphic. Obviously never been used. It's silver. Don't know if someone's buying this to use it or just because it's got a cool graphic. But it sold for $13.50. Carved marble Abraham Lincoln head. On the side it says copyright 1960. Very cool. Sold for a best offer of $25. This is a handmade raffia straw placemat or trivet. It's supposed to look like an orange. And the cool thing is it's actually made in Italy. And it looks handmade. So that's kind of a nice thing. I mean, it's one of those little things you find in a box lot or just randomly at a thrift store or a yard sale for nothing. And it sold for $18. This is a cool one-strap backpack. You can see it says Rookie Symposium Class of 2010 NFL. This was from an estate sale of an NFL player. So I don't know who it was because they wouldn't say. But we got a bunch of stuff from their estate. And this bag sold for $45. Vintage Marantz tape player made in Japan. We tested it. It works. Although we had one that we tested about a year ago and it got returned. Apparently I didn't fully test it. There was some function that wasn't working. So I'm hoping that's not the case for this one. Sold for $54. This is the Appalachian door harp. I've seen a bunch of these in my time. A lot of people in New England have them on their front doors. So when you open the door, you could probably tune it to different sounds. It's pretty cool. It's hand painted. It sold for $34. 1994 Kathy cartoon. I have it all and I carry it with me. Tote bag. Definitely vintage 90s, nerdy bag. It's got some marks on it. I took a best offer of $30. Vintage mid-century cast aluminum. Happy hearts make happy homes. Trivet or wall hanging. We find these all the time, and at first we were like, those are cheesy. Let's just try and sell them, whatever. They sell all the time. So this one sold for $27. Beautiful hand-knotted wool vintage rug. It is 2 feet by 1 foot. Quite small. Would look beautiful on a table. I sold it for a best offer of $90. Vintage Channel Master transistor radio with a leather case. I think we sold this as is. I doubt that we tested it. It's pretty awesome. It sold for $36. Super cute pair of vintage syrup dispensers. Really, I love these. I actually use them to put cream in. But they're cool for honey, syrup, stuff like that. And they sold as a pair for $36.99. Henkel's brand serrated knife. made in Germany. It's got a little bit of wear on it, still in great shape, sold for $34. Harvard University, JFK School of Government. I actually almost applied to go here for grad school, and then I thought, nope, not going to do that. So it's funny to find this. Yeah, so we find these at our thrift store for free because they put them in a big box because they get so many of them. And this one sold on Bonanza for $25. These are a nice pair of Silencio hearing protection for, going to the shooting range or working with big machinery, stuff like that. And they sold on Bonanza also for $25. This is a set of 3 vintage rolling pins. People definitely collect these. I think these are like a box lot thing that we got. And they sold for $27. This is an iPod Nano, 6th generation, red, Apple. It had a cracked screen and they did not have a charger, so they didn't know if it worked. So I got it for almost nothing. I forget how much. But I do have a charger that fits this, and I replaced the screen myself. I think I bought a replacement screen for like $10, and it sold for $90. Vintage wool military pants, just basic pants. They look barely worn, and they sold for $40. 6 little Dutch egg cozies purchased in Amsterdam for $1 or €1. And they sold for $36.99. This is a cute pair of sandals. They are beaded and sequins. They have a nice look to them. No brand. I just thought they looked cool. I think I just got them at the thrift store. They sold for $25. These are vintage Jello molds on the original packaging. It's ripped a little bit. The packaging says 1969. I've had these for a very long time. They sold on sale for $28. Pair of vintage Hanover cap toe men's shoes, leather bottoms. Sold for a best offer of $50. This is a vintage Greek fraternity paddle from Lawrence College in Wisconsin. You can see it's definitely old, 1950 or so. Whoa. Wisconsin Alpha Chapter, Lawrence. And it sold for $60. This is a vintage Steelcraft brand screwdriver / brace is what it's called. It's got a wooden handle. It says Steelcraft, and it sold for $45. This is a very cool vintage denim and leather. It looks like a mail carrier's bag or something because it's got metal up here in the handles. It's got a shoulder strap. The bottom is got like some kind of board inside. And I sold this once before and someone returned it because they thought it was too big, I'm pretty sure. Or too small, I forget. But this time it sold for a best offer of $50. This is one of those sales that's just wacky. Vintage clip. Document clip, little one, key, just cool looking, $20. Okay, I have like 8 of these patches, and I've had them forever, and I have them priced at $1.50 each. And someone who's new on eBay, who listens to the blog, bought one so they could build up feedback, which is fine by me. So this is the Army 8th Medical Brigade from Fort Tilden, New York. Military patch, and it sold for $1.50. This is a patent leather belt by the brand JP. It's a brand that a cop would wear, probably like a state trooper or something. And this sold for a best offer of $30. This is a vintage Irish setter tie rack, I guess. It's made out of resin. Definitely vintage. It's got peeling paint, but it's still cool. And it sold for $60. This is a vintage Wilson leather baseball glove. I don't know why it's super special, but it kind of is because it sold for $50. This is one of those box lot items that just randomly shows up. I actually cannot believe this sold. It's a little kitty ceramic plate. It's tiny, made in Japan, sold for 13 bucks. This is a new in the package vintage spool of copper wire. Nothing special really, just found it in a box lot probably. And it sold for 17 bucks. Washington DC Nationals shirt. Pretty fancy. Sold for 25 bucks to someone in Kansas. This is a Redman brand tobacco. I guess it's a fishing tournament. This is the 10th anniversary hat. It's kind of an awesome patch. And it sold for 40 bucks on Bonanza. This is a vintage Hildy canister. Hildy's the artist. People collect these, although I've had this for a very long time. I found it at my local thrift store. I thought it was cute. But it did finally sell for 30 bucks. Not bad. Classic Panasonic Slimline tape player. Tested. It works. Comes with the cord. $36.99. Beautiful pair of men's brass boot brand. White leather moccasin loafers. Beautiful. And these sold for a full price of $60. And the funny thing is, someone who bought these bought them while we were in New Orleans, and they were about 10 blocks away from us. So I thought that was funny. Another wacky sale. Boston Baked Beans. Little vinyl change purse. And we've had this for a while, but it did sell for $12.74 on sale. This is a vintage grocery list. Wooden lady where you'd have little pegs here where you would put the peg where you need stuff. Cigarettes. Oh my. And the amazing thing about this, it sold for 40 bucks. This is an IKEA silverware caddy that we were going to use at the rental, but we ended up getting a wooden one at a thrift store. And this is from IKEA. It's brand new. And I think we sold it for the same amount but actually more than we bought it for. I think we bought it for like 4 bucks, and I sold it for 13. But the great thing is it sold to someone in Puerto Rico. So that means, you know, IKEA must be hard to get. So 13 bucks. This is a lot of 3 different denim fabrics. And I'm pretty sure these came from the Bluebell Wrangler plant because they were purchased at a yard sale like across the street. And there was a Wrangler plant here in our town for years and years and years. And these sold to someone in New York City for $87. Netgear router. I buy routers way too much and they're not worth very much money. However, this one is a very nice one. This is actually the exact same one we have. When we bought it new 5 years ago, when we first redid our house, it was $80. We just desperately needed a new router, so we bought it new. This one I found at a thrift store and it sold for 30 bucks. Vintage men's leather bomber jacket. It's cool. It is not military. It's like varsity brand. Catalina, made in Korea. It's probably from the 70s, 80s. It's a little ripped there, but it's still sold for 60 bucks. Vintage trivet. It's wood and ceramic with a daily prayer. It's got a cross stitch pattern. We've had it for a while. It sold for 14 bucks. This is a vintage Etco brand, ETCO. Made in Japan. It's a little steak knife. It's got like a solid wood handle. I think it might be teak. One single knife. This sold for 13 bucks. And my theory on this is someone has a set and they're missing this one, or they just want a nice little steak knife. 13 bucks. This is a hand-carved rose necklace. I bought it in Amsterdam. It looks like Bakelite, butterscotch Bakelite, but it is phenolic resin. It's much like Bakelite, but it doesn't test positive like Bakelite. But it is a similar substance. I bought it in Amsterdam for like €1 a couple years ago, and I sold it on sale for $38. This is a caricature drawing dated 1951, signed by Jack Lane at the Coconut Grove in Los Angeles. And so what this guy used to do is he would, draw caricatures of people at the restaurant / club. And some of them were famous people, some of them were not. And this was probably the owner. We got this at an estate sale. So I put this up high and it sold for $143. This is a vintage Pyrex 1 quart, 4 cups. It's got the D handle, as they call it. Made in the USA, definitely vintage. Sold for $27. Vintage Revereware 1 quart pot with lid. Very cute. Definitely old. Sold for 20 bucks. The way you can truly tell it's old vintage Revereware is that circular logo. That means it's from the 40s or 50s, so it's quite old. These things last forever. This is a vintage Staffordshire, made in England, redware. You can see the pottery itself is like a dark brown red. They call it redware. And this I've had for a while. There are collectors for them, but this one is not super fancy. Although it looks very fancy with the gold. And it sold for 30 bucks. Pair of stainless steel vintage serving tongs. They're very cool. They sold for 15 bucks. This is a set of 3 items. Napkins with a P on them and note cards with a P on them. So perfect for someone having a wedding or something like that. And it sold for $25. Another lot of vintage software, Microsoft Windows 3.1, and some other random stuff. I wanted to just get rid of this because it's taking up space. It was basically free, and it sold for 15 bucks. Vintage fridge magnet, Kelly's Kitchen, definitely from the 70s or 80s. Sold for 13 bucks. This is Edgar Allan Poe, who dropped out of the University of Virginia at Charlottesville. So it's kind of a funny mug. And someone in Charlottesville, probably at UVA, bought it for $19. Vintage Delft gin bottle. You can see, made in the Netherlands. Quite lovely. Holds gin, or it's a Dutch version of gin. And it sold for 30 bucks. Global shipping program. This is a beautiful 8x10 flat weave wool rug. We originally bought it for the farmhouse rental and decided not to use it. Let's see. Yep, it's pretty big, 8x10, as I said. Sold for $400, full price, which is awesome. I think I paid $70 for it. And this is it. The great thing about flat weave rugs, they can get folded up. So that's probably about 3 feet long by 2 feet wide. And I'm going to wrap it up in thick trash bags, and then put a couple poly mailers on it. And that should be good to ship it. It's quite heavy, but it's a compact size to ship. And here's the final packing job of the rug. I packed it in a super thick trash bag, and then I took about 4 of my largest poly mailers, which are, I think, 19 by 24. It took 4 of them to wrap the whole thing. I just cut one side and just taped it up. So the good thing is that's 2 layers of poly mailers, which are thick anyway, protecting it. And it weighs 25 pounds. This is a brass rubbing of a plaque of William Shakespeare from the UK. It's professionally framed and matted. It's got a beautiful frame. I had this up for $150. And I went back and forth with someone for a while, and we finally settled on $124. This is a great Samsonite carry-on bag suitcase. It's soft nylon. It's got 1,000,000 pockets. It's got a shoulder strap. I bought it at a yard sale for like $1. And I went back and forth with this guy forever. Finally, we settled on 40 bucks. This is a vintage 70s, 80s orb light. Super shiny. I think probably everyone who saw this at the thrift store thought it was ugly. Because it kind of is, but it's kind of awesome. And I went back and forth with someone on the price, and we finally settled on $85. We sold a bunch of hats while we were gone. This is the first one I'm going to pack. This is a Mickey Mouse hat, clearly. It's from Walt Disney World, and it's sold for 20 bucks. Virginia, Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. It's even got a stain right here. I'm not sure I tried to wash this one. But it sold for 25 bucks. Crystal Pepsi hat, definitely from the 90s. And this sold for 50 bucks. University of Texas Longhorns Nike hat, very nice embroidered logo, cotton, $27. Fat Tire Amber Ale, embroidered logo. It says Fort Collins, Colorado on the back, $24. This is a Paraclete brand military tactical hat, and it sold for $27. Embroidered Harley Davidson hat, we took a best offer of $25. Gold embroidered London 2012 Adidas hat, sold for $36. This is a Walmart logo employee's hat, or somebody who just really likes Walmart. Save money, live better. Sold for 18 bucks to someone in Hawaii. Heather Gray Audi racing hat with a silver logo, very nice. Looks like it's never been worn. 36 bucks. Nautica brand navy blue hat with a patch. See on the back it says Nautica. It's got a leather little strap there, and it sold for $27. Pandora Internet Radio, publicly traded company, sold for $25. This is a cotton Toyota hat. It's got a metal logo. I know people are really into cars, so that was kind of a cool hat. It sold for a best offer of $25. Bilbo Drilling Company mesh trucker hat, brand new. We have like 5 of these. I don't know why. Sold for 25 bucks. Vintage Russian military hat with ear flaps, camo, $37. Vintage Arby's mesh trucker hat. Looks like it's never been worn, 25 bucks. This is the Boy Scouts hat that we bought in Amsterdam. Jay wore home on the flight home last year. And someone gave us a best offer of $125. This is a pair of Stacy Adams men's wingtips, which are leather and linen. Very nice. Leather soles. And they sold for a best offer of $70. This is a very cool handmade acrylic scarf. And it sold on sale for $17. Another beautiful scarf. This one is tartan plaid by Scotch House. 70% cashmere, 30% wool. Super soft. And it sold for $33. This is a vintage Oregon University little flag, probably from the 50s, and it sold for $22.50. These are a couple things that sold that I have not packed yet because they're very large. This is a Sirico brand, big old clock. It's quite large. It's very cool. It's made of resin. I do not know if it works, but it's definitely got chipped paint. These can go for a lot of money if they're in perfect condition, but you can see my paint is definitely flaking off. So someone needs to repaint it. But it did sell for $97. And this is the last thing I will leave you with. This is quite a large painting. It's 25 by 30, so I will have to do like a custom box for it. But this painting I had up for $1,200. We got this at an auction. Someone else was auctioning. Someone was bidding against us on this, and it was a set of paintings. One was totally different than this. And they won the auction for $50, but they didn't want this one. So we saw them in the parking lot and they gave it to us for 25 bucks. And it's a really cool painting. It is signed and dated 1957, and we love it because the woman's face is, looks realistic, but the rest of her body is this like abstract. It's really awesome. And I took a best offer of $450, mostly because I bought it for 25 bucks. So $450 is a great sale. And after I'm done packing this painting, I am pretty much done.